Our next presentation is the role of Facebook in everyday life, a cube that involves faculty from the Institute for Social Research and the School of Information, plus a faculty member and graduate student from the LS&A Department of Communication Studies. Representing the team are Professor Sarita Shainabek and doctoral candidate Joseph Baer.
Hi. Today, we're going to talk about the role of Facebook in everyday life. Our cube is made up of one PhD student, Joe Baer here, and 3 faculty, Emily Falk, Nicole Ellison, and myself, Sarita Shainabek. One of our original goals in coming together was to be able to understand the role of Facebook in our daily lives. We were particularly interested in how it impacts people's moods, how they feel, their ability to form and maintain social relationships, their physical and their emotional well-being. But what we ended up finding was about social media use more broadly, especially in the lives of young people. In building this team, we were able to combine 3 different perspectives. Falk was trained in psychology and studies neuroscience and communication. Ellison was trained in communication and studies social relationships and technology. And I was trained in human-computer interaction and study people's relationships with technology. And finally, Joe Baer, our graduate student, is going to become an expert in everything. We have a number of articles in progress that will be submitted to psychology, communication, and information venues. So we were interested in the social implications of social media use. And if you pick up a newspaper, it won't take you long to notice stories and articles about how Facebook is ruining society. But of course, every technology, from the telephone to the telegraph, has had similar concerns voiced about it when it was first introduced. For instance, when the phone was first popularized, people worried that it would break up family life, it would destroy social conventions around visiting in the home, it would make people lazy. Consider the fears of a principal in 1814 about something we hardly consider a communication technology anymore, paper. The principal says, "Students today depend on paper too much. They don't know how to write on a slate without getting chalk all over themselves. They can't clean a slate properly. What will they do when they run out of paper?" And now we have Facebook, used by over 1 billion people around the globe every day. And it's no wonder, it's not surprising, that this relatively new form of communication would be subject to the same debates in society. Like the telephone and paper, Facebook is also subject to anxieties about how it'll affect our relationships, our mood, and our well-being. And this anxiety is exemplified by this Atlantic cover, which shows a man and a woman in close embrace with a man staring at his cell phone, glowing. But to be fair, not all media resorts to these sort of melodramatic leads. Here we see 2 parallel CNN headlines, one positive, one negative, presenting findings of recent studies of Facebook effects. And herein is the uncertainty in our understanding of Facebook. How is it impacting how we feel in our everyday lives? When we look at the science, so the empirical evidence, some of which is being led by researchers here at University of Michigan, we see an even more complex story and conflicting story of Facebook. In terms of general usage over the long term, there's a lot of benefits that come out of Facebook use. For example, people can acquire social capital, which are the benefits they receive when they interact with other people through Facebook. It can also provide a mechanism for them to mobilize resources, for example, being able to ask questions and receive answers from friends on Facebook, often answers you might have a hard time getting otherwise. But what about on a day-to-day basis, or even a minute-to-minute basis? There's some conflicting findings. So Cross et al., out of the University of Michigan, in 2013 found that Facebook use lowers mood. However, Toma et al., also in 2013, found that Facebook use bolsters self-esteem. Still, other research has shown that people who use Facebook in certain ways, such as looking over their posts on their own wall, reported having higher self-esteem after they look over their own Facebook walls. So while people report a number of benefits over the short and the long term, we don't really understand how Facebook affects our emotional health in our everyday lives. This leads us to the research question we want to talk about today. How does real-time Facebook use affect mood?
One goal of our cube, then, was to move past the news headlines using a representative sample of 150 undergraduates here at the University of Michigan, and measure Facebook activity in its most natural form. That is, Facebook wall posts, comments, and statuses in the midst of daily life on the move. In order to measure real-time activity, we've decided to pair two types of data used on their own in the past. First, at the beginning of the study, participants were asked to add an application to their Facebook profiles, giving us voluntary access to the live Facebook activity, even though they did not know why. Second, we used a technique called experience sampling, in which we would send quick, one-minute surveys to people on their smartphones randomly throughout the day. The surveys asked participants where they were, how they were feeling emotionally, and finally, about their most recent social interaction. Then, in addition to the surveys that we sent people randomly, whenever participants actually posted something on Facebook, they would get sent an identical survey in the next few minutes, without knowing that their own behavior had triggered it. Thus, we were able to gather deep data about the moment-to-moment interactions that occur in daily life in combination with actual Facebook data. This method is more accurate than standard surveys about past behavior and captures a different type of Facebook experience, the granular effects of Facebook use in the natural environment and flow of people's lives. And for now, I'm going to focus on our findings from mood, how positive, negative, and energized that participants felt on average at the moment of the survey. Surprisingly, despite the strong claims about Facebook on both sides, we did not find that Facebook activity predicted changes in how positive or negative that people felt in the minutes following a Facebook post, debunking the idea that Facebook use is inflating or deflating our emotional well-being. Instead, what we find is that Facebook has a more nuanced place in everyday life. Posting on Facebook is associated with higher emotional arousal, but only when one is at home. If one is out in the world, then its effects on our well-being are negligible, thereby validating the importance of our new method of linking live Facebook activity to experience sampling for understanding the real-time effects of Facebook. Finally, we looked at how people perceived Facebook interactions when comparing them to other forms of social media. And here we see a different story. In contrast to the real-time effects of Facebook, people perceive their recent Facebook use to be less positive than other forms of social media, including email, texting, calling, and to our surprise, Snapchat, which was actually viewed as the most positive channel. Altogether, by combining different methods and disciplines, we were able to unpack the effects of Facebook at a much more grounded level than previous research, allowing us to rethink the image of Facebook in three main ways. First, we see how Facebook and the emotional effects of using it are contingent on a number of different factors. In contrast to how it's often presented in the news, posting on Facebook does not make people feel more positive or more negative, on average. However, Facebook does provide a way to make you feel more energized if you're at home. Second, given the finding that Snapchat was viewed as the most positive channel, we see for the first time an important contrast between the old social media of Facebook and the newer one of Snapchat. When you look at the two side by side, the two are in some ways the inverse of each other. Facebook is purposely permanent and long-term. Snapchat is purposely temporary and short-term. And these elements of their design seem to affect us emotionally in very different ways. Putting it all together then, we see how our increasing number of communication options gives us more possibilities, but also more work as everyday communicators. We all must find the right equation of social media to attain a balance of benefits across channels that helps us to elevate the brief moments and longer stories of our personal lives. To return to our original objective, we have known for years that Facebook allows people to mobilize their social network. But that does not affect the emotional effects on a day-to-day basis. Here we have taken a new approach to look at these effects in the midst of daily life. And despite the societal anxieties, from an empirical standpoint, posting on Facebook is neither the basis of nor the resolution to our emotional challenges. It seems Facebook is just one of many tools in our social life that can help if used at the right time. Thank you.